To get to the heart of the story, we had to get to the heart of the jungle. Here, in the remote Talamanca highlands of northern Panama, just miles from where Kris and Lisanne were last seen. We're retracing their footsteps. We're following the deadly path that claimed their lives.
We came here to investigate 2 tragic deaths, but what we found is a mystery far stranger than anything we'd ever imagined. We've uncovered a string of other related murders, corrupt government officials, and a town terrified to speak out about what really happened and who's responsible.
That's a clip from Peabody Award-winning journalist Mariana Atencio on her true crime podcast, Lost in Panama, which came out this week. The former MSNBC national correspondent joins me today to talk about this new series where she spent a month in the Panamanian jungle investigating the unsolved deaths of 2 Dutch tourists who disappeared there in 2014. Mariana, this is a shocking story with so many twists and turns. Why did you decide to take this assignment?
It was honestly how insane the story was. The more I read about it, the more that things didn't add up. And obviously, there's this need to bring justice to the families of these 2 women at the center of it, but also a very personal reason, which is the fact that this revolves around 2 women, Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, 21, 22 years old, who potentially, the new evidence may reveal, were intercepted and attacked on this trail. And I, Daniela, as a 23-year-old, so almost the same age, in my home country of Caracas, Venezuela, in the Avila Mountains, also got attacked by a man going up a trail by myself. So
you wrote about it in your book.
When exactly, it's the chapter titled Count to 100, because it was so horrific. The man held a gun to my head and said, "Kneel, count to 100. It was one of those moments that I just didn't know I was gonna live to tell. And it actually marked a crossroads in my life, because it's when I decided that I had to come to the United States. So it's what happens with trauma, where you keep it away, stored in some drawer, and then one day you get a phone call about something similar that, you know, may have happened to 2 women, and you're like, I lived to go down there and figure out what happened to them. And so that if this is still happening to other women in that part of the world, it can stop.
Did you get any help from the local authorities, and did the community cooperate with you?
Government corruption and the lack of help from the authorities was one of the biggest obstacles that we had to overcome. But also keep in mind that because this is an 8-year-old case, sometimes the original authorities that dealt with the case, or the original experts, the forensic experts, were people who are no longer in those positions, but that are now afraid to talk to you, because we found other possible connected murders to this case. So there's this notion about town, and this is a very small town in Panama, that if you speak about this, you may end up dead. We talked to, and our listeners are going to hear about in the next episode, one of the forensic anthropologists that first analyzed the girl's remains didn't want to talk unless he remained anonymous. So those were the kinds of conditions and challenges that we had to overcome on the ground, not to mention the physical challenges. And then finally, to end, this would have not been possible without the locals helping us, the people that stood up, especially the indigenous locals, a local detective who said, I want the truth to come out. And if that means my life, then so be it. But I have to help these folks.
But you also have a challenge of being the only woman in a crew of like 9 men and trying to navigate this, you know, in a part of the country where machismo is alive and well.
It wasn't easy at many points, especially because we had to go up these same trails where the women went up and potentially got lost. It was very physical work. And I know, you know, this is a woman, and our audience at NBC and MSNBC has seen me cover many a storm and many natural disasters like earthquakes. You never want to be the one who slows the team down. You never want to be the one who's fussy about things. But inevitably, there are things that you deal with in the jungle, like, for example, like the weight you have to carry, the wild animals that are about. We were in the dead of night next to this river where these women potentially drowned. I mean, just even going to use the restroom in those conditions, there's no way that you're not scared. So as a woman, it's also, how can I imprint that on the story.
What do you hope the legacy of these two women are?
Yes, it's about Kris and Lisanne, and certainly their case deserves the media attention. But when I saw the over 50 missing women and girls since 2009, just in this 40-mile corridor of Panama, I was blown away. And it's women that don't get a tweet sent about them. It's women that don't get the media attention because they're indigenous, because they're local, because they're Black and brown. And while we were there, two went missing and were later found to have been murdered in cases of femicide. So this is a real epidemic in the region. It's called the shadow pandemic. It's been labeled that by the United Nations, and it's something that we really have to look into.
What's that advice out there that you have for journalists like you, whether they're Afro-Latina, Middle Eastern women, Black women, Latinas, on really using their lived experience as a strength and as an added advantage as a storyteller?
What makes you different is what will make you stand out and be successful. Double down on that, absolutely, because there's going to be a group of people that you can connect to, that your message will get to, but that only you can reach if you are yourself. So tap into that. And the other key component, Daniela, that I found out doing this investigation is two words: IP, intellectual property. And what I mean by that is owning our stories. Imagine this is a story out of Central America that, could have easily been dismissed, not turned into a podcast. It had generated a lot of buzz in the moment, but there was nothing new happening with it until we uncovered more. And think about just there's so many stories, the plethora of stories that exist in our communities. If you own the rights to those sources, to those stories, you can really break through in this business, especially in this moment right now where there's so many platforms to do it.